We're recording on ScreenFlow, and then we are going to start recording here, and hopefully one of these two recording systems will work. Okay, so we are now recording. I am Michael Tabb. You are in your script editing class, and I am Head Inquisitor. I would like to open the floor up for questions from anybody in the class, for any questions you've brought with you or you think of at this time. Okay, well then we can just go straight into a scene if nobody... Yes! All right.
Okay.
Perfect. Okay, we have two questions here to start. We'll let ladies go first. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Danita in Alabama.
Hi,
Danita. My question is, I know that we discuss a lot about what is allowed in the action line.
Yes.
And the different words you're allowed to use and things of that nature. And through the different texts and books we have, it actually shows how you can actually phrase things different ways so you still get the same message across. I don't know if anybody else is having this problem, but I'm having an insane issue staying away from like the ly words.
Yes.
Like carefully or gingerly, or I'm not. There are certain words where I cannot figure out how to make sure I don't use it when it is an action, and I want to be able to show that that's what the actor or the character is supposed to be doing something.
Do you have a specific? Do you have a specific example
Well, the other day, I sent in my scene. I'm not sure if it actually got to you. But,
yes, I got it. I got 3/4 of the way through pre-marking it. So yours is. So we'll get. I do intend to hopefully address some of those, but go ahead.
One of the things I wanted to make sure that my character, one of the characters, not in the scene you got tonight, but in one of my earlier drafts, that my character was. It was obvious to the audience that they were taking an extra care in doing something, and instead of using like carefully or gingerly, I wanted to make sure that it was showing that they were taking this extra care to do it. They were placing something down.
You could talk about how they use their fingertips. Their pinkies are out. If you want to be delicate, there's the pinkies out thing. You try to describe the physicality without the adjectives.
Okay.
Or the adverbs. Because it really, you just think about crystallizing. When you use an adverb, you're usually trying to describe something that's a conclusion from what you would see. What is it that makes us know that she's being delicate? What is it about her movement? How is she holding it? How is she doing it? What are the specifics? Because I could say he sits stiffly, but his shoulders forward, his brow clenches, his teeth clench, his brow furrows. These are all things that tell you how somebody's feeling and express emotion, instead of trying to describe things in conclusions that we can't actually see. Now, just so you know, I try to help. I do this in this class specifically, not because it's truly forbidden anywhere else, but this is how you guys have to learn to be extremely visual. There are great writers who do use those words, but most of them know better. The newer ones know better. And what we're trying to do is improve upon the craft, be clearer with our writing. And these are trade secrets that you do need to learn to master because of the fact that it creates a dynamic, specific image, as opposed to a bunch of conclusions that they get there on the day of and they're like, how are we doing that? Oh, he's sad. All right, so go sit in the corner. But your idea of sad could have been mopey, or could have been somebody bawling in the corner, ripping at their hair. I mean, how sad is sad? That's why we don't do emotions. We do physical actions. What are we seeing? Because it's through the eyes in a visual medium that we actually are able to decipher where people are emotionally. It's not because we can see their emotions. You can't see sad. You see, what you see is the action, and then the reader or the audience then interprets that imagery and takes that in and decides, oh, that's what this is. And you leave room for the reader to come up with conclusions. And that's how you get people excited about your scripts. It's how you get people to inject themselves into your stories. Is you paint a picture, and then by painting a picture, you are making them come to the conclusions instead of drawing them for them. The most boring reads are the ones where the writers are drawing all the conclusions for you, so you don't have to think, you don't have to interpret, and it's just a list of things that happen. Well, that's not half as exciting as when you're making their brains work. Because when you engage the reader, you're getting their imaginations in the story, and then they start to care more about what's happening in the characters. Because now part of them is in it, because they're emotionally involved, because you don't have to tell them emotions, you tell them things, and they're engaging their own idea of emotions without you having to explain to them what to feel. Does that
That
make
makes
sense?
Yes, very much. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Does anybody else have a question? There's a gentleman who had a question.
Uh, I have a question.
Yes.
It's I know you brought up this something related to this in your week one overview.
Yes. Good.
When I wrote my script, my story, I wasn't really happy with it. I mean, I know there's a lot of changes I want to make, and I know you said don't focus on that right now. Focus on the grammar and the structure of the story. I was wondering if we will get a chance later on to at least potentially
This class
make dramatic changes.
Here's what we're doing. In this class, we're getting the story, we're getting the script to read the way a script is supposed to read, so that we realize and study in the next class without me. You'll be with another teacher, but in portfolio is where they give you story notes. And the idea is in this class, you get the scenes that you designed as strong as you can and as well executed as you can. And then if after that they're still not working, that means you'll have to do some story reworking. So the idea is you make the best of what you have, and then you see if they work or they don't work. The only reason why I don't have you making those bigger changes here in this class, if you see them coming, is that I don't want you to not get done all the changes that this class does require. Because what happens is there are a lot of notes. There are a lot of lessons in this class, and it takes a long time to apply. It's some parts of this class, I hate to admit it, the job is a little bit, it's so time consuming, and there's an element of the fact that I'll admit it, that looking for is in every single slug line, in every single action line, is a tedious act. Even when you use the find function, going and replacing every single is with an actual active verb, the word are, and stuff like that, it takes a long time. And there's a lot of little things like that we do, and it takes a while to do that to 100 pages of script. So now multiply that by the amount of different things you have to do throughout the entire script during this class, and chances are you don't have time to do the things I grade you on and all the changes you want to do in the story.
No, I understand. I just wanted to be sure that I'd be able to fix
story
things
is
later on.
You have 2 months of portfolio after editing, and as you do that, you'll be able to. That whole class is going to be about fixing your story wherever it needs. They will also read the entire script and give you feedback on the script as a whole. So that's the next class.
All right.
You're preparing for it right now.
I know. I can't help it. I just I'm.
Oh, you're eager.
I'll be honest. I got a little nervous just with how much stuff's being piled on. It's like, oh no, we gotta try to reorganize everything.
That's exactly why I temper my students because editing is time consuming, and you want to get each aspect done. And then when you're done, when you all graduate, I don't know if you know this, but you're allowed to come back and audit classes again after the fact. And after you're done making all the story changes, you can always come back through my class for free, not have to turn in anything, and just go through the lessons again, so you can go through and edit the new version of what you've done in the next class.
Thank you for letting me know that.
It's really cool. You'll also get to do it if you want to start a new script. You can go back and you audit earlier classes from earlier in the program to help you to help give you a pace and a series of lessons to kind of get you inspired to start writing a whole new script when this is done. And that's all for free for an allotted amount of time. I don't know how long exactly. So you'll be able to do that as you write new scripts and as you revise this one and get it to where you want, because in the next class, you'll get noted. You'll get a lot of notes, and you'll want to make changes that the instructors want. But remember that after you're done making the changes that they want, first of all, try to make sure you always try to understand the changes. You don't just make changes blindly if you don't understand them. Make sure you always understand the changes, and then after you make them, don't forget that after you try them and you're done with the whole class, if you so choose, you can go back and revert your script to any version of your script you wanted it to be before. Like if they inspire you to make changes and then you're not thrilled with them at the end, but you tried them and you did them and things like that, you will of course be able to do that after you graduate. And nobody's the wiser. Nobody's insulted when you change things to the way you want them afterwards, because they won't be reading it again. Whenever I get notes from my friends, I get their notes. I thank them profusely for all of them, and then I only make the ones I want because I'm not going to give it to them twice. They won't know what I used and what I didn't use, but I will get specific answers I'll get answers to all the questions I have on what it was they meant by the notes that I was confused about. Make sure I get clarification before I make those decisions myself.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
I have a question.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
And I don't know if it's I don't know if it's the cheat sheet or one of the emails you were talking about. Don't over direct.
Yes.
In your script, and I just wanted to know how you felt about. I know walking down the street is an issue. Facial expressions, are those all things that you're looking for that are issues, or how do you recommend making those changes?
Here is, in the opening of a scene, you're setting a picture. The way you open any scene is I always try to start a new location with conflict leading into visual, because the problem is when people start a new scene, everybody's taught, and it's common, it's everywhere, and is that you have to establish the scene. So people often write the setup, the room, queen size bed, whatever. Well, if there's a fresh hey, we're in a bedroom now, and it has 2 beds and a side table, and there's some books on the shelves, that's exactly the time when a reader goes, you know what, this is a good stopping place. And you know what happens when they say that? They don't have a starting place again. Unless they have to write coverage, they're going to wind up not picking the script back up. So I try to work my way from one scene into the next, and transitions is one of the hardest parts of screenwriting. And so you get into a scene, I try to get in with some conflict, if I can, like a person carrying a knife or chopping something hardly, on the kitchen counter. Like if you're having a scene and it doesn't seem that heavy, set it in the kitchen using kitchen knives, chopping something. All of a sudden, it's a little more intense, whether the conversation is that or not. So think about how to add some visual conflict, set the scene, and then after you've started the dialogue, the only scene descriptions that you should include in the script, and you should break up dialogue. Don't get me wrong. I'm not a hardcore person on every 3 lines like previous teachers have, because they want you to get into the habit of finding a visual and portraying the story visually constantly, because we're all writing in visual mediums no matter what kind of script you're writing. So, but you only write a visual if it, one, escalates or deals with the actual conflict in the scene, taking it to another level, forcing a reply, forcing some kind of action or verbal response. So it either has to feed the conflict or reveal some type of very unique information about character. The fact that they wear glasses isn't necessarily that unique. If they are very habitual or OCD and they're constantly cleaning their glasses, just say it once at the beginning of the scene and do it. And then at one point in the scene, when things get tense, don't forget to pay things off if you can visual. Like, for example, somebody says something and all of a sudden he squeezes the lens so hard it cracks in his fingers. So what you'd be doing is you could take a description, but that's a tension builder when he breaks his own glasses because he's trying so hard not to. You see me blinking. He's like, and then he breaks them, and then he puts them down with his fingertips, and then says, "Get out. It's time for you to go. Thank you for coming." So. Just make sure that what happens affects the dialogue, affects the scene, affects the drama. If the visual doesn't raise tension or inform unique aspects of the character, chances are you don't need it. And if you don't have a lot of it, that means you need to think about how to incorporate visuals into your conflict more. Find ways of having moments that you're having your characters go through with dialogue, and finding ways of trying to personify that conflict in some way other than conversation, if you can. It's always nice when there's something harsh going on physically and then the words are ginger, or the words are very harsh but somebody's doing something very gingerly. You know what I mean? Somebody's sipping tea with their pinkies up and they're saying, "Yes, I think it's time to kill the boy. Thank you very much." So that's the key to writing good action lines. Is over like, you don't need to tell people when they walk from right to left, or walk across the room, or walk to the window and look out yonder. I mean, that's the stuff the directors and the actors, they're going to do that. That does not feed the conflict. It does not feed the story, and it does not tell us anything about the character when they look out the window, gazing off into the horizon. Unless they think there's this moment and they're about to go into battle, okay? And the sun is rising, and he has his sword, he puts it away, and he watches the sunset. And what that moment means, without you having to tell us, is he thinks it's his last. But I would say that kind of a specific moment, literally for the end of Act 1 or the end of Act 2. If you're going to do something like the sunrise or the sunset, it needs to be at a moment in the script that is truly highlighted in the 3-act structure, so we know and we can feel as an audience member where in the script this is and the meaning that it implies, and that it's a big moment. People in the middle of scenes going off to look out the window, not a good idea. Because what we really want is for the actors to be engaged. We want them to be, even when they talk patiently, for them to be at each other's throat, to look at each other and have the intent and drive to be going after something. Because that's what engages the audience. That's what engages a reader, and that's what engages when we're watching a story, is when characters are fiercely channeled into a mission. Wishy-washy you don't need to do, because the director will find highs and lows in the visuals and for the blocking. Whether you can have them back away from somebody, that's a piece of body language. If one guy puts his hand behind his back and the other one starts backing behind a wall, you're saying that is saying physically there may be some danger here, right? So it's literally affecting the tension in the scene. That's when blocking is okay, because the blocking is actually highlighting a fight about to happen, but it's informing what the next beat would not happen. The next beat has to be a result of whatever happened right before it. If this line is going to follow this line, regardless of what you put between them, then nothing goes between them. It has to affect it. It has to affect. Nothing in your script should not affect character, introduction, establishment, and conflict. Did that cover everything fully?
Yes.
Do you have any other questions?
I have one question.
Yes.
I don't know if this was already answered. I came in late. But for a montage, if you have a montage that's like a dream sequence, I don't know if this was in there or not. It's almost like a scene within a scene. When you put end of montage, do you put another slug line even if you're going back to the same scene?
The book that I had you all sent for this class is called Dr. Format Tells All.
Mm-hmm.
And you can look up dream sequences and how to format it in there.
Okay.
And they give you options.
Okay.
So, easy.
Thank you.
Of course. Anybody else before we hit the first scene? All right. I'm going to now take off the webcam. And I'm going to switch over to show my screen. Can you see my screen? No. There. Can you see my... it says you can see my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Fabulous. All right. Now I am going to open back up that. And here we go. Okay, the first scene that was submitted to me. Are you here? Jessica, yes you are.
Yes, I am.
All right. Can you turn up your volume just a touch? Doesn't have to be too much, just a little bit.
How's
That's great.
that?
That's great. That's great. Okay.
Okay, cool.
All right. I'm trying to think. I am now going to, in case you guys haven't, this is how you turn on revision mode. You just click it. Boom. Now there'll be a check mark next to revision mode. So now everything I do and mark will leave asterisks and should be in another color. I see that it marked my changes already. So let me see something here. Revision mode. It's not, it should be in a different color. Yeah, it's not in a different color. How do I fix that? Because you want to be able to...
Professor?
Yes.
What you have to do is in the case where you already made the changes, when you go into productions and it has that revisions with the ellipsis after it,
Right.
you go into that and you're allowed to change the color there. But since you've already made revisions in black, what you probably have to do is highlight the entire script and then go into revisions.
There we go. Thanks. Yes, that's it. Thank you. You are absolutely right. I've done it a million times, and of course, every time I still forget. Because I can't hear. We'll do hot pink, or that's fuchsia. How's fuchsia work for you? Is that annoying?
No, that's fine.
All right. Okay. All right. Oh, so it was your changes as well were on this. Okay. Do you have any questions before I start?
Nope, not yet.
Okay. The first thing I would say, starting with your slug line, interior Boston Police Station day, is that police stations have a lot of different rooms. Just like anytime you would have a scene take place in a house, you should probably specify the room that it's in. Is this the detective's cubicles?
Yeah.
Yeah. Detectives. That's actually apostrophe S. Cubicles. Okay. Now, just so you know, when you separate major and minor locations, most people use the dash. It's true.
Right.
I use the comma. For an explanation, feel free to review the cheat sheet. The first thing that was important for me to notice here is you used a lot of passive and past tense words. Past tense are also passive, but passive in general is not the way you ever want to phrase action lines. And this is something that can take you a while to change throughout a script. But Uh, Robert, a tall, lean man with athletic build, short black hair. Okay. To make this active, you'll put that first. Now, and then you can then put slumps over his desk and rubs his red rim, his red. Everybody, it's not bloodshot. What bloodshot is when they're red on the inside. You just mean that. What's another phrase for red rimmed? You wouldn't say red. You can just say rubs his eyes. You don't. They don't have to be. They don't have to have red around the eyes. I think that's a detail you really probably don't need. And rubs his eyes. I also don't think that you need which fingers he rubs his eyes with. Again, it's not important. It's not going to reveal anything of character, and it doesn't serve the scene. The fact that he's rubbing his eyes and slumps over tells us he's exhausted. You've been able to allow us to reach our own conclusion without you having to tell us he's sleepy, which is great. Right?
Right.
Okay. You don't need he chances a glance, rubs his red eyes. Chancing a glance, you're getting... It's just unnecessary verbiage. Slumps over his desk, rubs his eyes, save the and for here, and we got it into 3 lines, and glances the oak. You don't need it, the kind of finish that's on it. It was past tense. Stares, glances at his badge. He's staring at the badge. Glances at his oak clock. Instead of propping, which is passive, props up his back. Is it important that it's against a clock? Is there? Are we getting into that kind of detail for a reason?
Yeah, I wanted to get into that kind of detail because I wanted it to portray more along the lines of what time it is, especially and leading into the next scene.
What time it is? Well, if you want to know what time it is, then you have to say it when you're looking at the clock.
Okay.
What time is it?
It's close to about 12:30.
Midnight, 12:30?
Daytime.
Daytime. And does the whole span of the movie take place on a ticking clock?
It's not the span of the. It's the episode. Just everything takes place within those 6 hours of noon, daytime type thing. Because the last scene ends up with somebody dying around the dawn area when the sun's setting.
His badge. Now, this is what you call a dangler. When one word hangs over, we try to get rid of it. Late 20s, tall. You put tall, lean man, and whenever you have 2 adjectives next to each other without an and, you have to put a comma. That's the listing comma. It's one of the 4 major commas from comma time. Hey, and it saved me a line. Yes! As an editor, it's the little things. So you'll want to make sure that that's one of the commas you do not miss moving forward. Slumps over his desk. A lean man with athletic build and sharp black hair slumps over his desk, rubs. I'm going to get rid of that underline. Rubs his eyes and get rid of the bold, and glances at his badge, which leans on a clock that reads. See, that sentence is way too long. Slumps over his desk, rubs his eyes, and rubs his eyes. I think I like the and there where you originally had it. I think I want to make a second sentence. He glances at his badge, which leans on a clock. It reads noon. Again, you have a dangler here we're going to work on. Did you mean sigh here?
I did. I think I got auto-corrected.
Well, that the other word, I didn't even know it was a word. he releases agonizing. You don't need it because you're describing an emotion, and you have to trust the actor to do their job and provide perspective.
Okay.
You can't dictate. The worst thing you can do to an actor is micromanage. There are one of two things happen when you micromanage an actor in your script. Either one, they do read and try to do what you wrote for them, which means they're not feeling the part. They're literally trying to go through a series of emotions you predetermined, which means they will not be able to really be comfortable and relaxed in it and be themselves or have their own take. They'll be trying to obey your take. The other thing that could possibly, so that's bad. The other option that happens out of it is that they ignore it anyway, so it didn't matter, you shouldn't have put it.
All right.
So either way, I think you've set up his time. I don't think you need that. I don't even think you need that he releases a sigh. Again, he's slumped over. He's rubbing his eyes. You're giving him enough. He knows what state he's in, and his head hitting the desk, well, collides. His head collides with his desk. And bolts. Now, is he falling asleep, or is he literally pounding his head? Which is it? Because it's not clear.
Literally pounding his head.
Okay. So he pounds. Be clear about what your character is doing when you do an action. Pounds his head on his desk. It's a lot clearer than the desk collides with his head.
Okay.
Now, if he rubs his eyes, I think we know he's tired, right?
Right.
Do we need slumps on his desk, or can we just use that he pounds his head on it?
We can just use that he pounds his head on it.
I think so too. Okay. We just saved about half of what we've written so far, and we're getting in there much faster. Do you feel that? Do you feel like you've really lost anything of importance?
Nope.
Okay. So 6 lines are now 3 lines, and you've lost nothing. That is the core of what I'm trying to teach everybody in editing, which is you just get rid of the stuff you don't need. That's it. That's what we're doing, and then which means we try to do everything better. That's it. We're just making everything better, tighter, more succinct, clear in every way we can. Doyle, early 30s. Now, we haven't met Doyle before, or you have in the script. Just you added the caps here.
No, we haven't met him before.
Okay. Squirrely's a word, isn't it?
I thought so.
So did I.
Sometimes you.
But
you spelled it. You spelled it right though.
Well, if it's going to correct me and red underline it, I don't want to draw people's attention to a potential spelling mistake and make anybody question my spelling when I write a script. So if I see a red underline, I tend to to try to find another way to say it. A squirrel like man with a sunken expression. By sunken, do you mean droopy?
Yeah, he's got a droopy expression. His cheeks are sunken in. He just looks very pale and sick.
A droopy. So he's sickly.
Yeah, he's sickly. I think I put the squirrel like in there because he's very squirrely. He's like a walking man squirrel.
I'm going to. Would everybody mute your microphones that I'm not speaking to? Everybody but Jessica, mute your microphones because I'm getting a lot of rustling. Hold on. Control. Squirrely. Yeah, it doesn't give me squirrely. Hold on. I'm gonna look it up. Sorry.
Okay. No, you're fine.
Got it. Copy. Just V. Yeah, so that is the correct spelling. It's urban slang. All right. But it's a real word, damn it. I guess we'll leave it. It just, whenever you say something like, it sounds like you don't know the right word. And as a writer, it's a sin to not know the right word.
Okay.
I think we'll know that Doyle is a man without you telling us it's a man, just based on the name. Squirrely, droopy. That is an expression. Droopy is a squirrely is kind of agitated though, and droopy is kind of nonplussed. So they conflict. They're not exactly. They don't go right. Squirrely. I think squirrely. Pale. I don't think you're gonna think he's pale anything other than skin, right?
Okay. Right.
A lot of this, guys, is you use two words when one will do. That's a lot of editing, unfortunately. Pale, pale skin. Same thing. Nobody's going to think when you say pale, when you say somebody's pale, they're not going to think you're saying anything other than his skin being pale. ED, we want to avoid. Creases in his pants. You know, it's the crease that you want to see, I think. I think that's the detail that you're shooting for, right?
Right.
And off blue uniform? Is it a regular, is it police blues he's in?
Yeah, he's in police blue. I just wanted to signify that he washes it way too much.
Okay. Well, I don't think the audience is going to get that.
Okay.
Don't you agree? And honestly, a guy who washes his uniform that much will get a new uniform.
Right. Okay.
Do you agree?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. And his pants and police blues. Do you think that works for police blues? Police uniform. Reaches. You don't need out. Out is one of the words, by the way, everybody. 9 times out of 10, it's unneeded. Just like up, just like down. When people stand up, you can just say stand. When people sit down, you can just say sit. Nobody is going to think you're not doing it otherwise. Uh, is plans. Okay, reaches for his shoulder. Robert catches. I just want to be clear. Doyle's wrist. He's another thing. If he's going to catch it, what is he going to catch it with other than his hand?
Good point.
So you get rid of it. Now, you got to consolidate words. You can why have 3 words or 4 words when one will do. By the way, I put the 3 here at the bottom of this paragraph because you had a 4-line paragraph, and we try to keep all of our scene descriptions down to 3 lines or less, so that whenever somebody loses their place in a paragraph, they want to be able to, if they were in the first line, second line, or third line, they'll remember where they were. But once you start getting paragraphs 4 lines or longer, they have to go back to the beginning. And the more people have to go back just in case, the more the pace suddenly feels like to the reader that it doesn't flow smoothly. So if you keep it to 3 lines or less, you'll find that people are able to read your script smoother. It puts more white on the page, which is more pleasing for the reader. Okay, so instead of before Doyle can touch him, before contact. Without. Now here you're. This is another thing I didn't even catch first time through. Without. It sounds stupid, but you don't want to describe negative action. Don't tell us what somebody is not doing. Tell us what he is doing, not what he's not doing. I can say the scene is not blue. That doesn't allow me to picture the scene. So, before contact, head on the desk. Head, you don't want to use still. Eyes forward. Reaches from behind. Now you can say eyes forward. What did I just cut? Yeah, without lifting his head. You don't want to do without. A brazen. Is that past tense?
No.
Yeah. Brazen oni tattoo adorns the. You'll want to look at if there's another word for that. Adorns the underside of Robert's forearm. Reveal a brazen Japanese oni tattoo adorns the underside of Robert's forearm. With red and black eyes, adorns the underside of his forearm. Now you get rid of that. Does that all make? Do you have any questions about the changes I'm making here and how I'm working? Because one of the things you like to do is when you describe something, don't describe it. Move off to where it's located, and then go back to describing the tattoo. It feels like you're going forward, then going back. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I know that's one of my biggest problems is cutting down how much I'm writing.
And that's what we're going to work on in this class. This whole class is just about that. So it's a common problem. Otherwise, we wouldn't have a whole dang class for it. So don't feel bad.
Okay, cool.
With red and black, I mean, I used to be a horrible editor. It took me 15 years to get this good. So, no problem. You got a month, right?
Cool.
Oh, geez. Sorry. I'm trying to lighten the mood because this is hard for a lot of people. And by the way, everybody, Jessica is going through hell right now. you may not. I don't know if you can be empathetic to this, but it's kind of like being eaten in front of a classroom of people. Like somebody taking a knife and fork and cutting you and being eaten right in front of the entire class, like a lion eating his prey, because somebody's taking their meaty little fingers and they're making tweaks and adjustments to the script in front of you, and you've slaved over this for months, and in minutes, I'm changing the way a lot of it is being done, and she's allowing this to be done right in front of all of you, and it takes a great deal of courage and guts and a true desire to better yourself. So I didn't show appreciation before we started, but I need to, now that I've drawn blood, I need to apologize so that I just know that I understand that this is hard, and I appreciate you having the courage to do this in front of everybody.
Not a problem.
Okay. Robert, on either, now this is the direct address comma. It's very important. This is also on the list of the 4 key commas you really have to know.
Okay. So even though it encompasses the direct address and the name, you do want to. It is supposed to split the yes and Officer Doyle.
That is correct, because.
Okay.
But the truth is that given the choice, I would do this. I always look for saying the same thing with less. May I help you, Officer Doyle? The yes is or you could honestly just do this.
That works.
What do you prefer?
I think his character would probably just say yes.
Okay, see? And your screen will flow faster because of it. Yes. Now, nervous is an emotion. What? So you can do it like this, or you can just write it like this. I don't like it with the red lines. Or you can use stutters and do it like this. Because stutters is what you meant by nervous, right?
Correct.
All right. So again, take the emotion out of it and ask yourself, what is he actually doing that makes you think he's nervous? And that's what you put, so that the audience and the reader can put the two things together: what you're saying, they're seeing, and what you're saying. You don't have to dictate the emotions, because when somebody stutters, we get a sense that they're a little nervous. It's an automatic association, so they're reaching conclusions and mentally engaged. Doyle hands Robert a folder instead of bursting, which is a passive verb, that bursts with papers. Well, it doesn't burst because they would be all over the floor. Overflowing?
Yes.
That overflows. One of the key things you all have to remember is that as writers, we are paid because we know the exact word for what needs to be said and done. If they could find the exact word, they would be writers, believe me. They often wish that they were and want to tell us how to do our jobs. That is, everybody wishes they could do what we do. So close enough, when you're looking for the right word, close enough isn't good enough. You want to find the right word that you mean. Overflows is not the same as bursting, because there can be a misinterpretation with bursting that literally papers are falling all over the floor, in which case, if you're going to do that, then that means that's fine, but if you want to set Doyle is the nervous Nelly, and if Doyle's handing the paper, he can be dropping papers all over, and then he's all over the floor trying to pick them up.
Okay.
So if you want the folder to burst open and papers to go everywhere, then you can have that and have that be part of the nervous action that's happening.
That's not what I was imagining, so overflows definitely works better.
Okay. Now just remember, just because it's not what you imagine doesn't mean it's not better. So you always take an idea and decide what is better. I think it can be distracting, so I think you're right probably. But if you're really trying to set up Doyle as this incredibly nervous Nelly, then that's a physical action that would personify it, him getting down on his hands and knees in front of Robert, gathering his papers for him. Okay. Robert, let's go of Doyle's. Let's go of... Again, why say 3 when one word will do? What's a word that says let's go of?
Releases.
That's right. Releases Doyle's. Now, if he's releasing the wrist, do you need captive?
No.
No. Wrist and snatches the folder. Now, if he hands it to him, he doesn't need to snatch it because he's already handed it to him. Okay. So he's not handing it to him, he's offers. You see the you see the difference?
Yes.
One is one. You can't go into somebody's hand twice. So specificity of language is really important to paint a constant, clear, unrepetitive course of actions. Now, Robert is not a genteel gentleman, is he?
No.
So what's... I think you're writing the word prostitute from a nice ladylike perspective. What is Robert going to call her?
A whore. He's probably going to call her a whore.
Okay, a whore, a hooker even, you know.
Yep.
What do you prefer? Your character.
I prefer a whore. It just comes out better for his character.
Another missing whore. Now, you don't... People refer to people in shorthand, so instead of the captain, maybe captain's actually giving me a homicide.
Okay.
You don't need case because a homicide is a case.
Correct.
You know, I don't think Robert is over expository with his dialogue. What's great about writing, when we're all finding the best possible characters to write for our stories, we will find that the characters that most attract us and most devour the screen are the kinds of people who won't speak overly flowery. It's because they're on a mission, they're trying to get to a point, and they don't need the BS. They're not there to mince words. They're men of action. That's what makes them proper leading subjects for a visual film, a visual entertainment. So, Captain's actually giving me a homicide. So, dead hooker.
Okay.
See what I mean?
That would fit.
You know, instead of I hope he was, I don't think a guy like this uses the word hope. I think that's the very antithesis of his character. It sounds funny, but I look at every single word, every single moment, and this is what editing is, and try to discern what I know of the character and make sure what is coming out of their mouths suits the kind of person, the grittiness that I think you're shooting for. And I think there's still a little bit too much of you in Robert as opposed to Robert speaking for Robert. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I don't think Robert hopes. I think hopes are for dandelions and dreamers, as far as Robert is concerned. Am I right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, look, you clearly conveyed to me mentally and emotionally who Robert is. That's why I'm able to see these things. So, did Cappy use nice words? While wiping his ass with his case file. Now, why is he saying did he use nice words about me?
because the captain hates him. He
Okay.
just cannot fire him.
Okay.
Because he's just that good.
No, that's great. Okay. Well, I don't see that he needs nice words. Did Cappy wipe his ass with this case file before he asked you to bring it to me?
Okay.
Do you think, or you know, deep down, he loves me. You see what I mean? This guy's sarcastic. You know. You can use, by the way, this is very important for everyone to hear. If I make a change, or when people, when I make notes on your script, 9 times out of 10, I won't actually write on it. This is a specific case, just so that you're seeing how I would change things, because just sometimes it helps people learn. But I won't, when you give me scripts later on and I review the scripts for editing things, 9 times out of 10 won't give you lines. But if I do, or any changes I ever suggest to you, please know, I mean this from the bottom of my heart, feel absolutely no need to keep anything creatively that I add or change or mark or suggest in your scripts. Your script, your name's on the cover, not mine, totally up to you. The only thing I ask you to listen to and understand and make changes for are editing errors, editing ways of editing things and making them look better. So, Dead Hooker. You know, deep down, I don't know if you want that he loves me. I don't know if you want
I think that would work.
Kepi used nice words about me while wiping his ass with this. You don't need case file because I think we know what it is.
Okay.
You just handed him a file. Doyle squirms. I don't think you need to say in place. Now you say Doyle squirms, and then you say he feigns washing his hands. So Doyle's feigns washing his hands, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now washing is obviously a passive verb. And what I don't know if we're gonna get that he's washing his hands. Do you?
Again, I did when I saw it, but I can see how other people might not be able to.
That's right. And I don't think you need that he looks at the floor or that Robert looks at him.
Okay.
I don't think that helps you. Doyle, I don't think you need he squirms. I think he retracts his hands fast. You know, I think that's, you talk about wiping his butt, he pulls his hands back. Do you think that's clear? Or do you,
Yeah.
if you like squirms, I'll leave it. You can cut it later if you like.
Okay.
Here on this line, originally this is what it looked like. Okay, guys, everybody, before you turn in scenes or post them or anything, you should always run Format Assistant on a script. I don't know if any of you have used it yet, but it's a wonderful tool. It's right here, and it immediately went to this space. Elements should not be blank. Whenever you leave a blank element or a blank line on your page, it will get rid of it for you. So I just say fix, and then no more errors found. All right, this must be in general and not in scene description, which is why it fixed that. Command, I'm going to just make sure, change elements to, yeah, it was in general. See, that's how I knew why there wasn't a line between paragraphs. Put it in action, and now I can get rid of the extra space. All right, here we are. Retracts. What the hell is wrong with you? Nothing. Did he say something to you? I don't know if you need to you. I think Doyle. What happens when people are extremely nervous? What happens to
they don't understand words? They try to lie.
and what's the one thing they do very little?
Talk.
That's right. So you know, you can do that or that, and then he doesn't have to say a word. Like I said, see, if a key to writing great dialogue. One of the things that you can do is never write direct question and answer in audio. So if somebody asks a question, you either ask a question back, or the character who speaks after that completely changes the subject, or you answer it with a visual. If somebody says no, they can shake their head.
Okay.
So Doyle shakes his head. This is making your dialogue visual. Instead of talking about it, you're just doing it. Doyle shakes his head. What the hell is wrong with you? I think that's a little better. Did he say something to you? Doyle shakes his head. Robert forces his shoulders back and erects his posture.
There's a typo. I just found it. After shoulders, it should be back, not black.
His shoulders black. You don't. I think that this tells you the other as well and saves you a line.
Okay.
Don't you agree? Or do you not agree? It's okay not to agree.
I see what your point is, but I did want to make a point of him going the extra mile and forcing his shoulders back before he erects his posture, kind of puffing up. But I do see where I could change that line so it's more like he puffs up and straightens his posture other than just forcing his shoulders back.
Okay, I don't know if this. I don't know if it helps, but I don't know if it hurts either. It's just extra words to me saying kind of the same thing. I mean, saying that somebody puts their shoulder here. This is also important about action. People should only take one action at a time, without a response that forces another reaction. You don't do two things in reaction to one thing. You do one thing in reaction to it. If somebody asks a question, he can nod or shake his head. If somebody pushes, the other person pushes back. He doesn't push and then push him again and then push him again. He'd push him. A line would be said back. It's back and forth. Even physical action is a form of dialogue, and there needs to be back and forth. So I would not over-dictate one person doing several things over and over, because it kind of gets, where's the conversation? Where's the build? If there's no back and forth, there's no build. It's just one way. It's a one-way maneuver. Do you know what I mean by one way? It's he pushes. You know, it just feels like, just so you know, it helps pace when it's bum, 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 and the ball is bouncing back and forth. It helps create pace visually and physically. His pale blue gaze sets on Doyle. Okay, so he puts his shoulders back, then he erects his posture, and then he fixes his eyes on Doyle. Now, is there a way to put that in one succinct kind of... It's a lot of description and three different sets of actions, and it takes... it takes more time than you need to spend on an action like this. You know, I almost think all this is done with Robert clears his throat. Okay, you had this as a no. Okay, hold on. Okay, you had this. This works as a no if it's a question mark. You were right, especially if you're going to have that next line. Now,
You could simply glare at him. Also, I think that would also, if he, after he fixes his posture, he could just glare at him.
nah. Okay. Is that a question? I don't think you need more than that. Look at the... You see what I mean? I don't think you need the part that I highlighted. Do you agree?
Yes.
It's much more biting this way. Fidgets, I don't think you need to specify where. You let the actor figure out where. You're showing nervousness. Officer. Was wasting my time. Was wasting my time. I think we can go harder than your new hobby. Do you feel like answering my question? You know, or do I need to beat it out of you? You know.
Well, that's exactly what he does eventually. So.
Yeah. I don't. Answer my question. See how different that is in tone? Now, he doesn't... Now, it's not... It doesn't... Both parts of the sentence aren't sarcastic. One is... I'm laying down the law, and then the other is... And then the other is a totally different line reading. Do you feel how that changes?
Yes, it does bring up a question. We can use the period kind of as a shift in tone, kind of like you did right there. That is okay.
I do it. I mean, I personally, I think that every single sentence. Look, if a character says something, the only reason why they add a different sentence to it is because they didn't get what they wanted the first time. So their intent, the intensity, and how they're going to say it needs to change anyway. So every sentence should be, in a sense, an elevation. Because the only reason why they start the second sentence is because the first sentence didn't elicit the response they wanted. Otherwise, they wouldn't have said the second one. Nobody knows, a character intrinsically would not know that they're about to say two sentences. They say the first sentence, and then they say the second sentence based on no response after the first sentence, right?
Right.
So, to me, every period is a game, is a mood, is an opportunity to play something in a different way. Doyle stares at the ground, shakes his head. Continues to is a phrase that we do not need to ever use in scene description.
Right.
You already said that he was fidgeting. You don't need to say he's still fidgeting or continues to fidget. We saw he fidgeted before, and now he gets to fidget again. We will know that it is a continuation because he did it before and he's doing it now. Robert's eyes mimic his tattoos. mimic his tattoo. His tattoos. They darken black with a red tint. They darken. I don't know if I let. How do you see the eyes turning black?
I see the white
pupils
part
expand.
No, I see the white part fading in and the iris hinting red. The white part fades black and the iris.
Okay. So I would see. This is all you're saying. They darken, but I would say his pupils expand. Expand. Black consumes his eyes. A red pupil grows in the center. You see what I mean? Do you see how it paints a vivid picture on what we're seeing and how it happens? Now, you can change that to do that any which way you want. This is supernatural, right?
Right.
Okay. So this is so do you see how his pupils expand? Black consumes his eyes. A red pupil grows in the center of it, just like in his tattoo. Just like on his tattoo. Just like the eyes on his tattoo. Does that work for you?
Yes.
Here you have another dangler. He wants you to bring someone. A babysitter. You see the difference? All that unnecessary. He's a to-the-point guy. Let him say what he needs to say in an abrupt manner because he's an abrupt man. Do you agree?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I don't think you need to micromanage how he's feeling. Babysitter? I think when somebody asks a babysitter, I think we're going to get that he's not so thrilled about it, right? I don't think that whether he's annoyed or frustrated or angry, no matter how the actor plays it, it's not going to change the course of action in the scene. Therefore, it's not really necessary. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I just want to make sure I'm making sense. Okay. A babysitter. Me. Stands and yanks his eyes they return. This is a very languid way of saying blue eyes return. Right?
Yeah, I was going to ask if I could also put they return to normal since we've already seen what they normally look like beforehand.
Yeah, I think so. I don't even think you need to normal. I think we'll get that it's normal when his blue eyes return. He slips his arms into the coat I don't think. Uh, 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 I think you're micromanaging direction. You already say he grabbed the coat.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you need him putting it on. I think that the actor can be trusted with that bit of trusted to make that call,
Okay.
and it doesn't change the scene. I don't even know if you need him grabbing his coat, to be honest. But I understand what you're doing. But again, I don't see how grabbing the coat really changes the scene, especially since he's coming right back. That worked out well last time. So has Doyle been partnered with him before?
Yes.
Oh. Now the best thing I think you can do here is he says, I can try to, and you have Robert have this line. I would just have him walk off. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Because
Yeah, that'll work.
What?
Yeah, that'll work. That line's not exactly conducive to his character. So
No,
yeah,
it's
I see what
not.
you're saying.
No, it's not. Storms, you don't need out of the room because you don't need to say where he is again. Storms off. Exits. You don't need to say I don't think you need to dictate, by the way, how somebody walks off.
Okay.
You don't, Doyle, I don't think he stands there, catch his breath, right?
Yeah, I mean that is something.
I think that's what you're really going for with all this, watching him disappear and all that stuff, is that he's...
Right.
Now, you can't tell us that somebody curses lowly under their breath because you cannot write dialogue you do not write. So either he says something or he doesn't. If he's going to curse, you can put a description that it's a mutter or it's under his breath. But if he's going to actually curse, you need to write out the line of dialogue. No dialogue can be said without being written.
Okay.
So do you want him to actually curse?
No, just a mutter will work.
What?
Just a mutter will work. He doesn't need to
Okay.
curse or say anything. He just make noise.
Do you see how I'm doing that? I'm kind of teasing it.
Yeah.
Doyle
I
turns.
was unsure if that would be okay for us to tease it like that. So I'm glad that you did that there. So that was later on in the script.
Look. A double dash is an interruption. Somebody's turning to walk away. That's interrupted by. Double dash is always interruption. Everybody, don't make the mistake of doing the triple dot ellipses. A triple dot ellipses is kind of the trailing off of, that would be an ellipses. But when somebody's doing something, then something sharply interrupts, stopping whatever was happening. That is an interruption. That is a double dash, whether it is in dialogue or action. Double dash is interruption. If you're interrupting an action, then yes, you definitely should do it. But as long as it's clear, like this is clear, he's slinking away, and and I always would have the word when there. When, and then by that double dash, I'm saying when that exit is interrupted by. That's what that means. When dash dash means when that interruption, when he is interrupted by this. Officer Doyle, you don't need to dictate the speed at which somebody turns around. And around with beside turns is one of those words that is unnecessary, just like stands up. If somebody is in a chair and he stands, you don't need the word up. If somebody turns, you don't need around. People know that they would stand up, and they know that people turn around. Doyle turns, and is a verb you want to get rid of all your scene description. Turns into Robert's fist. Robert's fist in his gut. Into his gut. I don't think you need to. I think that when somebody's hit in the gut, I think the actor knows they're gonna keel over, and I think they know that they're gonna hold their stomach.
All right.
Do you agree?
Yeah.
Good. All right. Look, I don't want to make a change without getting your approval because it's your script, and you can change whatever you need to. But do you see how I'm just kind of weeding out Robert's line? If you're going to grow a pair, at least find the sack to grow them in my presence. Do you think it's better if he just says grow a pair?
I don't know. Honestly,
I think this is kind of a talky way of saying what you want to say, which is man
well,
up.
I could also change that to say just something along the lines of don't talk crap behind my back or something like that. I'd have to play with that line a little bit more.
Oh, so Doyle's been saying stuff about him behind his back?
Yeah, and everybody knows it.
Okay.
I know that I need to portray that somehow. Maybe have some of the other officers audibly say something about that, but hushed kind of to each other.
Okay, so no, we can deal with that right here, and we can deal with it simply. All these things you're saying, that's great, but let's deal with that conflict, but not give it closure, but give it kind of a beginning here. He goes, is there something that we know that Doyle has said about him? No, not yet, because this is their first scene.
Right.
You don't need to threaten him because the threat's implied.
Okay.
You see the dip? You see? You know what? What rating is this movie?
It would be cable prime time, so I don't think they can actually say shit yet.
Okay, because if you wish to be able to sell it to any network, the line can work like this. I hear you talk about. I hear you talking about me behind my back again.
Okay.
Now, Robert leaves the captain's office. He lifts his middle finger at the captain's window. The blind's shut. You don't need the word immediately. I think we get it.
Okay.
Doyle limps. I don't think he goes to his desk. Because he's going to need to gather himself.
Okay.
Doyle scans the room as the other detectives stare. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Disappears. Doyle opens the drawer to his desk, revealing ace bandages. I don't think we need to look at ace bandages and band-aids from being hit in the stomach because you can't put any of that on his belly.
Right.
You see what I mean?
Right. Okay. Could we shorten? Anybody else got anything to say just to anyone else? Just.
Oh yeah. Do you have any questions about any of the changes and the tweaks that I've done here to kind of highlight the moment?
No, I understand all of the tweaks and changes that you made.
Okay, you obviously can turn around and make any of this stuff your own. Just keep in mind when you do that, try to keep in mind why I changed it in the first place. I don't care if you keep any of the things the way I wrote it. I'm just hoping that you're understanding how I've made the changes.
Yeah.
And why. More importantly, why, so that you don't change it back to the way any of the issues we had before. So do you have any other questions about anything before I open it up for anybody else to ask or make comments?
Nope. That's
Okay.
it.
First thing I want to do is say anybody else can feel free to open up their mics now and unmute. And the first thing I'm going to ask is if anybody has any questions regarding this specific scene or the notes that I've made.
I have a question.
Yes.
At the very beginning when you were talking about the clock, I remember in some of the notes that you gave us earlier, one of the things that they noted is that when you're talking about numbers, everything has to be spelled out except for time. Is that
well, I just made it noon because it took less space.
Okay.
You could put a regular time there, absolutely, but noon is something you can spell out, obviously.
Okay.
But yes, traditionally it would be the one of the two things in scene descriptions that you would be able to put numbers for, the other being age. So you could put 12:32 if you wanted to give a specific time, AM. Did you have another question about it?
Nope, that was it.
Perfect. Does anybody else have any other questions about this scene specifically?
Hi, this is Trisha.
Hi, Trisha.
Hello. I was wondering about the creases thing, only because I was envisioning that if you put just creases in his pants, I was seeing him frumpy then, like he's unkept. So I was wondering if that change in itself.
No. Yeah, you find a better. I just didn't want to use the word pressed because it's ed. Right. It's past tense.
I know. I was trying to think this whole time what I could do differently, but yeah. There you go. Yep,
there you go.
That does it.
You see, easy enough. All you got to do is point me at a word and say change that to something else. You find the word, and you just search in your head. What's the word you're looking for? And there's always more than one word for something, but the key is to not have it be a word that you think is just close enough. It has to really convey the idea. Now, yeah, okay. So, did you have any other questions?
I have an observation.
Yes.
When you talk about the character being out of breath, there actually isn't supposed to be an E on the end of that word.
You're right, that would be breathe. Where's that? See?
It's when Robert exits.
I think it's when the...
Yeah, it's on the last page, I think.
Last page.
Yeah, last. Go down.
You see, you're going to do just fine in this class if you catch the little stuff like that.
Only on other people's scripts.
Yeah, well, that's why if I was in this class, I would be swapping. I would be swapping scripts with my classmates.
Absolutely.
You know, find somebody who has possibly a similar sensibility, writes the same kind of material you do, or something, and see if there's somebody who wants to mark up your script and you mark up theirs. Sometimes, a little I script exchange with fellow WGA writers all the time. We just because sometimes you just can't see it, the forest through all the trees. My job, of course, I have to hold you accountable for that because that's my job. but please understand that it's just because I have to try to train you to. I do a lot of my own editing. I'll be honest, but I do always show it to people before I turn it to my team, just so that they can, so that I can get other feedback before my manager and my agent. See, the agent manager will always say, we want to see your stuff. We want to see it early. We want to get our input. That's not true. They're lying. They want to get a script, and they want to know that you've always been brilliant. And don't get me wrong, they'll still have notes, but you never want the first time they read a script. It's one thing with a manager, it's different with an agent. An agent you never show an early draft to, ever. Because, look, agents don't always do what you'd like them to for you. They don't necessarily always go out and get you jobs. A lot of the time getting work winds up being hustle and meeting people and socially getting out there, making friends online or whatever, going to things like Comic-Con and all that stuff. We do a lot of our own selling. The reason why we have an agent is so that instead of your mom saying you're good, which means nothing, somebody else in the industry says, oh no, I'll vouch for this guy. He or she actually has talent. So that an agent is just basically a way of confirming that somebody not mutually exclusive to you through relation or something like that actually believes your scripts are worth reading. And that means a lot because you wouldn't believe how many scripts there are submitted in Hollywood every year. There are 30,000 scripts are submitted every year. They buy maybe 200 at the studio level, and they make maybe 10. The rest are remakes and hired jobs and rewrites and stuff like that. So it's just about getting representation, getting people to understand what you are, and then get interested in your script enough to say, I wonder what their voice would look like on my idea that I want to have made. Because nobody ever got into Hollywood to make the movie you dreamed about making. They got into Hollywood to make the movies they wanted to make. So that's kind of how it works. I don't know if that's just more information than you needed, but it's still good information, darn it. But a manager will work with you on your script and they will give you feedback. That is part of their job. But usually I like to do a draft or two before I even get him involved because I want their opinions of me to always be high so that there's never any hesitation about what quality of writer they think I am. So I will edit the heck out of my script, and then I give it to my friends, and then they edit then they give me notes, and I swap for them notes. So it's part of the learning process. That's why I had you all post and comment on each other's scenes this week. Did that answer your question more completely than intended? Okay, I'll assume that answered the question because I'm not getting any guff. Does anybody else have any questions?
When we pick a scene, when you say it could be your favorite scene, so if I'm writing a drama, but one of my favorite scenes has quite a bit of comedy, that's okay, correct?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Okay.
Look, the key is that it has subtext. You're showing me that you can write not on the nose. That you can that there's dynamic character, probably saying one thing, doing something else. That there's meaning behind what they're saying that isn't necessarily what they're saying. Things like that. It's basically showing showing instead of telling us how good you are.
Okay. Thanks.
No, of course. My pleasure.
I had that question I posted about linking verbs because when I went through my script and
all passive verbs are allowed in dialogue.
Right. So you can't be overused. It's just if your character would be using that at that time, it's fine, correct?
Yes. I mean, you don't ever want characters to sound boring.
Right.
So it is as boring of a verb as you can get. So so I will say that you just want to make sure that you know you try to make every character sound unique, dynamic, that they have strong feelings, and the word "is" doesn't convey a lot of that.
Right.
And that's a caveat, but it's there. But I use "is" in dialogue all the time because that word is unavoidable. Because people will use it when they speak, and if you avoid it all the time, it sounds like you're avoiding it. You don't use it. You don't use it in scene descriptions ever. Just like the word are, or verbs with ing on the end, or adverbs with ly on the end, or ed past tense. You don't use anything like that in the scene descriptions because we want the action to read like action. Hence active tense. So I hope that covers the "is" question.
Yes.
Okay. Do you have another one?
No, I'm good.
Okay. I will email this to you, Jessica, after this evening's class.
Okay.
Does anybody else have any questions regarding the scene before I close it? Anyone is welcome to ask questions. Yeah.
I have one regarding the format thing, not really the scene. I apologize for not it relating to the scene, but you used that tool for format correction, I guess.
Yes.
How it was used. Is that only in the screenplay format?
No.
Or I could use it in any
It's
other
right here
format?
under Tools, Format Assistant, and it works in every format. If you left a blank line by accident, it'll go through and tell you where they are, and you just have to click that it's okay to fix it, and it'll get rid of all the extra lines. Now, it doesn't get rid of extra spaces you accidentally left between words. So one of the things you can also do is do Control, Find, and Replace, and you can take every double space and replace it with a single space and hit Replace All. And boom, they're gone, and you don't have to worry about it.
Awesome.
Little tricks.
Thank you.
Look, I know that editing can be a monumental pain in the rectum, but when you find the shortcuts, you'll be better off for it. The find key is really important. Do not let the whole thing. Do not let the turning in the script happen at the end of week 3 and not having used the command F to find every one of the words that is on the do not use list. Just go to the word, see what it is, see how it's used, and make any changes as necessary. I use the find for every one of the words that I recommend you guys would use it for. So that way you don't leave it in, because those are silly points to miss. Because you don't have to rip. And also, you can pick that it's only action. You can uncheck character, parenthetical, dialogue. You can uncheck all those, so it's only looking through the action descriptions. I would leave general because some people accidentally use a general as an action. And you can search only those things for those words so that it's not stopping and you don't have to look at which ones are in dialogue, because in dialogue those words are allowed. So that there's no additional stopping and fixing where you don't need to.
Okay.
Also, you guys should all know the shortcuts on script formatting. When you hold down Command, if you look at the bottom of the script, it tells you where the shortcuts are to each thing, so that you can go to any one of these things at any given time anywhere in the script. So if I want to go to a character, I just hold down Command and hit 3, and I'm there. It'll remember the names I use, as you know, so boom. All right. Any other questions? The difference between general and action is spacing. In a general, if I do these as general, there will be no space between paragraphs. So when I change the format to general, you lose the space there. A lot of people use that, but I've never seen a reason to actually use it myself. I actually like as much white on a page as I can get so that it feels a little bit more open and airy and easy to read. So I try not to eliminate those spaces. I try to leave them open so that things are easy to read, so that there's flow and there's white and there's separation between actions. I never use general. But a person can use, the people who use general, by the way, often do it when they do some kind of super. Like, for example, you'll go super, and then 20 years later, ... Now, I'm a firm believer in this. That's how I do it. But some people do it like this, and then they do this like that. Or here. They do it like this so that it doesn't take up as much space or whatever. But I always put the supers on one line. And if it doesn't fit on one line, it isn't a super. I hate to tell you, you need to have some dialogue or something because nobody wants to read that much. At that point, it's a subtitle or something like that. All right. Does anybody else have any questions? Okay. I'm saving this. I'm closing it. Now, it is bordering on 10 o'clock, so it's been 2 hours. In a galaxy far, far away. Yes, except for there would be a comma between far and far, and there would be a ... after away. Not if I wrote it. Everyone, that's by the way, whoever's watching this later, when I say things out of the blue and it sounds like I'm crazy, it's only because you cannot see the control panel that has the chat window where there are comments that I'm reading. So I'm not actually insane. I don't have multiple personalities, at least not that you know. And Erica Colin is a former student, and she's also a course director award winner. And she's always looking to better herself, so she even shows up to these things once in a long while when she doesn't have to. It just goes to show you you're never done editing, no matter where you are. Okay, so are there any questions not related to the scene that anybody wants to ask? And she loves to heckle me. Yes, she does. And that is allowed because she's earned it. Course Director Award winners can heckle me. Absolutely. So does anybody else have any questions about anything? Are we up for going through another scene, which could take a while? Or tell me where you guys are at. I'll look to the chat window, or you can speak out loud.
Our scene is totally up for you completely destroying.
Okay, is everybody else up for sticking around for a little bit?
Yeah, no problem here.
All right. Well, if you want to learn, I want to teach. So, hallelujah. All right. Now, just to be clear, we asked for a log line. This is definitely not what would qualify as a log line. You submitted one at the end of the week of the first week. Never more than 2 sentences, never more than 55 words. You turned one in at the end of last week, so when somebody asks for a log line, you never want to give them more than that, because immediately what they're going to think is you don't know the terminology, you don't know what they mean, and if you don't know something like what a log line is and what the limitations should be at the most, then they're not going to want to read 90 pages by anybody, by that person. They will.
Yeah. The one that I turned into was actually 50 words. I think I started to get a little nervous because we're coming into the middle of the script, and I didn't know how much
Well, then you
So
just put
I
that
was
separately
incorrect
as
in
the
adding that
information
much.
for the scene. This is fine.
Right.
But this is the log line you've put down as the log line. I just want everybody to. This is something that you're not the only person who would have done it. By the way, it's not a critique. I'm not trying to whatever. I'm just trying to make it clear for everybody. Whenever somebody says log line, 55 words max. This is not 55 words. I guarantee you. And 2 sentences maximum. All right, let's get right into the scene so that we can get going. Layla tugs at her clothes. Oh, Persephone's bridal shop night. All right. Are they doing a fitting at night?
Yes.
Does that seem odd, or does she own? Is Persephone? Is there a reason why you're doing it? First of all, this is a romantic comedy or a comedy, right?
It is actually a drama.
It's a drama.
Yes.
Okay.
It's a television show.
It's a television show. Okay.
Yes.
So it's a 1-hour drama, and sorry about that.
No, that's okay.
Okay. Well, then, just so you know, I just have never seen a bridal shop scene where the people are. Usually, these things are done during the day before, or the week before, or sometime before. So that's why I wanted to, because I would assume that most of the stuff would be done during the day. And night is also, by the way, more expensive to shoot at. But since it's an interior, not so much, because they just black out the windows anyway. All right. Layla tugs at her clothes. My apologies. Now, this is something. This is it's a tool to help you write more dynamic dialogue that feels less like you are trying to avoid conflict. I never, in a screenplay, between pages 5 and 5 pages before the very end, will have an apology, a please, or a thank you. And here's why. All of those things suck tension out of the scene. All those things are about trying to avoid conflict or resolve conflict or be extra careful and considerate. And our job, I usually wouldn't put it in the beginning either. I usually won't let there be apologies and thanks until after the climax is finished. That's kind of my rule. For me, as a writer, because I know it kills the tension in a scene, starting a scene with an apology, it's soft. So I would avoid it. Layla tugs at her clothes. I had to finish some stuff at work. Now, if you want there to be tension, is there? Obviously, you have characters trying to not overtly rip each other apart, but they're still a little spiteful. Is there a character in this scene, since you have a whole room full of bridesmaids here, which, by the way, probably isn't, which makes it a not very cheap scene to shoot. But that's okay. But the question is there a person in the scene who you don't mind being a character who isn't afraid to be rude to Layla, who isn't trying to bend over backwards to make her feel comfortable?
It's actually, Candace would probably be better. It's actually all of the bridesmaids except for the bride, but Candace at this point would probably be better, just because she comes out with that very first line.
So
to Shireen.
Layla tugs at her clothes. Why is she tugging at her clothes? I'm not understanding.
She is very self-conscious about her appearance. She's a former fat girl, and
This I got.
every time, say again?
I'm saying that, yes, I got that.
Yes.
That's good.
Okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, so what happens is in the scene before this, right before the act break, she's very late, and she walks in and everybody kind of is staring at her and nobody has said anything. And so when we come back from the act break, she's tugging at her clothes because nobody has spoken to her or even about her about her arrival yet.
Well, so did she just walk in?
Say again?
Because the comment that says, I had stuff at work, which is explaining why she's late, that would need to happen in the scene when everybody looks at her. It doesn't belong here.
Okay.
Do you agree?
Yes.
Okay. So, and I wouldn't have her say, I'm sorry. I would let there be looks. I would let her say, I had to finish the work. There was something at work, and then literally, instead of letting her finish the explanation, instead of letting her excuse herself, let it be. It's clear what she's saying the minute she says, "I finished something." I had work. You wouldn't believe, and just have somebody talk right over her and ignore her comment.
Gotcha. That's perfect.
It says everything that you want to say. They go, the dresses are in here, and then you can go into the shop or whatever. You see what I mean? So you're saying everything you want to say. You're giving the cold shoulder. She's explaining she's late. Don't let her apologize because it's weak. This is a little expository as it is, but if you're going to be expository even in the slightest bit, cut her off. Don't let her finish it so it's fast. Also, don't ever forget at the end of every single line to put a period. Without punctuation, it's not a sentence. It needs to have a double dash for interruption, an ellipses for a fade out, a question mark for a question, and it has to have a period at the end of every line, if not one of those other things, or explanation point. So please always remember to do that. I am going to switch this to revision mode. Okay. So and when you put a period, it automatically underlines it because it needs to be capitalized. So, okay. So really, we're going to start here. Now, when you go into a location for the first time, you need to set the scene. You need to tell us who's in the room.
Oh, I have a question about that. Because in the scene, like I said, before the act break, she had already arrived into the room. So is that necessary in the new act if we're still coming into the same room?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because by the way, every act break in a teleplay, it starts on a new page. You're coming back. The concept is you're coming back from a commercial, so it's sometimes shot on a totally different day, even if it's the same location. So,
gotcha.
Bridesmaids fill. Cluster and stare and shoot looks.
So I would still be able to establish at the beginning of this scene in the new act that they were staring at her when she came through the door, so that the tugging on her clothes makes sense.
See, this is the way I would consider doing it.
Okay.
I mean, you can do it however you want. I always mark for myself. Okay, so I'm putting this before, and I'm putting this here because this is really where we're starting.
Okay.
Now, I'm assuming that you introduced Candace with the bridesmaids before, right?
This is the first time we
meet the individual bridesmaids?
Candace. Say again?
Is this the first time we meet the individual bridesmaids?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
This cluster and shoot looks at Layla, who tugs at her clothes. Shoot. Do we need the word cold is the question. I put on revision mode. Why is it not marking it revised? Let's see. What color would you like?
I would like purple. Thanks for asking.
Of course. This purple here?
Yeah, that'll work.
All right. Okay. Cold looks at Layla, who tugs at her clothes. Candace, 29. Is there anything you can tell us? Is Candace an important character?
Not really. I read where it was important to give the people that talk names and not use like woman one or bridesmaid two.
Correct.
So she's not necessarily that important. We see them again later on in the episodes at like the wedding and stuff.
Well, there are a lot of bridesmaids, but you can actually just name. You can give them. You just want to give them a quality, like snooty. You can call one snooty bridesmaid, tall bridesmaid. What's the proper term? Little person bridesmaid. You can do things like that if you don't want to put a bunch of names that people aren't going to worry about remembering. Just so you know.
Okay.
But you just have to give them a quality so that there's some sense of what we're looking at. So you're painting a picture. But giving names is fine if they're in more than one scene. Okay. Glares at Layla. The phrase "and then" is on the list of phrases that we are trying to get rid of because every action is followed and then by something. It's like the phrase "cut to" between scenes. Every scene cuts to another, so it's redundant. Everything happens and then something else happens after it. If anything is written after something else, it happens and then. So it's a redundant term, and we don't like redundancies here in editing class. So, should call I wouldn't say looks back. The word "back" is also on that list. You don't need looks back. She looks...
Okay.
Back is often not needed. She leans toward Shireen. I thought you said she was fat. Now that's a question, not a period.
Gotcha.
So we need to put the question mark on that bad boy. Serene approaches Layla. Serene, well, you don't need approaches her. Because if you're going to hug somebody, guess what you have to do?
You have to approach them.
That's right. You can't do one without the other. So it saves you a whole line, and a lot of editing is just figuring out what in the line you've written in description that you just don't need. A lot of times it's overstating something. Other times it's, well, to do this, you have to do that. So you don't need both. So hugs, you wouldn't say hugs Layla. Grabs her hand and leads her to the other bridesmaids. And leads her. Hugs Lila and leads her by the hand to the others. And boom, back to one line.
Awesome.
It's a lot of work to just make one sentence just work right. You know what I mean? But it just reads easier. It reads better. The flow on the page is more condensed and fixed and tight, and it's just more secure. It's more honest about itself. Okay, Shireen. Well, she lost weight and looks great. Now, see here, when somebody is going overboard,
yes.
She's going overboard, right?
Yes, yes, she is.
Use overboard. Be clear
Okay.
about what she's doing and let the words reflect what's going on inside, which is I'm overcompensating.
Okay.
So let her overcompensate because extremes are what we watch entertainment to be entertained by. Extremes are what we're waiting for. Extremes are what entice our interest and get us all interested in. That's what happens when you entice your interest. See, I would have edited what I said if I'd had it in a script first. I probably shouldn't have ordered your dress. The comma goes before but, not after.
Gotcha.
And this is important, everybody, because this is a comma that I will honestly say a quarter of the students get a major deduction because of it. So you are far from alone in this. And this is what's called a compound sentence. I shouldn't have is the verb here, or ordered there. I ordered, so that's one sentence. If you have a subject and a verb, you have a sentence. Then you have a conjunctive word. And then you have another subject, which is we, which is another subject or noun, and then the verb. So these are two individual sentences linked by a conjunctive, which would be and, but, or. You have to put a comma before the and, but, or.
Okay.
Everybody be sure about... You can do a find and search for the word and just make sure that they're not two independent clauses bridged, that you have a comma there. And you don't put it after. Now, keep in mind that if there wasn't a subject here, it's like, I probably shouldn't have ordered your dress and shot your tailor. If you'd done that and there was no subject here, there would be no comma. Because you're just listing two things. But in a list of two things separated by a conjunctive, there's no comma. But when it's two separate sentences, and I know this sounds remedial to some of you, and some of you will be thankful, and some of you hate me for saying this, for taking the time to go through this. But it's really important, and it's an important grammatical rule, or it's actually mechanics, not grammar. Okay, I think that's clear. If anybody has questions about commas later, or how a specific kind of comma, don't hesitate to ask, especially with regards to the four main commas. All right, Layla, you ordered my dress. I'm stumbling, not her. Persephone 60s enters in a sleek black suit. I don't think it's a black suit, glasses, and high heels, right? It's all going to be black. So you don't need black next to two of them. Suit and high heels, you don't need shoes. When somebody says high heels, they're not going to think slippers. They're not going to think gloves. They're going to know it's shoes. And that'll save you another line. You had a dangler here when one word hung over, which is the word hand. Now that we've cut the words properly to what we needed, we no longer have a dangler. We save a whole line of script. She holds an electronic tablet in her hand. This is the comma that you use for direct address. You need it every time you mention a character's name in dialogue when you're directly addressing them specifically. It's not when you mention anybody's name, but if a character is speaking to a specific person and they're calling them by a name or a title, then you always offset it by commas. That's another one that gets marked off. If your entire bridal party is here, we can get started. Yes, my cousin finally decided to sew. Now, if she's the one who's being careful and over the top. So, decided to show, or do you want? Yes, my cousin finally showed up. I would only do this because it saves a whole line.
Yeah.
And it says the exact same thing.
Okay. Show ED, right? Though I can still.
Yes! It still fits. It's the little things. It's the tiny little victories. Okay. Layla glances at Serene and frowns. Now, you don't need a glance and a frown. You just have her frown at Serene.
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
All right. Now, this was another blank line that would have been fixed by Format Assistant.
Gotcha.
Layla frowns. Okay. When you hear your name and a number, please go to that respective dressing room. Lily?
Oh, the numbers rule that I just mentioned earlier and I did not follow.
That's right. It's so great, though, that you caught it on hers before we got to your scene and you didn't listen to it.
That's great.
It's
Exactly.
classic. Totally classic. It's the rule of, everybody else's, it's always easier. Oh, by the way, don't be careful just because it's not uppercase there.
Okay.
It's room 1. That's so funny. Okay. I didn't know if you like Scurry's better than hers, but Scurry's paints a more specific picture. Lily, a petite.
I like Sherry's.
You don't need A, you don't need female, because we're going to assume the bridesmaids are females, and with a name like Lily, we'll also assume it's females. So you'll say petite. Also, age always goes first. Very important.
Okay.
Petite. Scurries to, it's not her room, to room 1. It is, maybe it's her room. Obviously, as an editing teacher, I'm way too technical for my own good. But, hopefully some of it rubs off and everybody's happier after they leave here, not only to have left me behind, but they feel they've learned something. Amanda, room 2. Caitlin. Now, at some point, she's going to shorthand because she's a human being.
Okay.
Room 3. Or that's 3. And then you gave 2 people room 3?
Did I?
Yep.
Oh, wow, I did.
4. See?
Not on purpose.
Casey, 5. You see how, it's really natural for people to truncate, and it makes the dialogue sound more natural when you are having characters who are using a verbal shorthand in a way that's very clear. Because that's what people really do. Also, these would be periods. 4, Casey 5, Amanda, Caitlin, Kate. See, you need ages next to every character.
Okay.
Make them at least interesting if you give them a name. 90s. Why the hell not? Make them unique. 15. Choose gum.
Oh, not gun.
Yes, I was getting there. No, she twirls a gun. You said it was a drama. Why not?
Exactly.
And I'm just giving you an idea.
Right.
Or you could have her twirl hair. I hate chewing gum, actually. Twirls hair. Samantha. Snooty. Snooty's always a good one. And you don't have to obviously change these to whatever you want. 20s, Snooty. Casey. 30s. A beanpole. You know what I mean?
Yes.
90s with too short of a skirt. Because she's the one who needs to be... No, but see, I'm writing towards comedy. This isn't funny. I'm forgetting myself. But I try to find ways to make them... You're going to want to change all of that, okay?
Right.
Ooh, I like that. Choose hair. That's better. You're right. Instead of twirls hair and choose gum, choose hair. Good one, Erica. Because that's just something girls that age do. Persephone looks around the room and frowns. You just had Layla frown at Shireen. Do we need a frown here?
Persephone, no, I don't.
Okay.
I wanted Persephone to look for Layla. And that's
I really think the actor's going to figure that out when she's asking for someone she doesn't know who she is.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't think even you need where.
Oh, yeah.
Because she's called by name, just a name and then a number. She's not going to do it differently for another person. Layla? Yeah, I don't think you need a line. Again, when you can answer, if somebody asks a question, if you can answer it with a physical action instead of a line, then you can answer the question. Otherwise, don't answer the questions directly. Layla raises her hand. Persephone stares at Layla. You got another and then? On Shireen. I think you're playing it a little safe here. Mm-hmm. This dialogue here, this exchange about her not being the fat girl she was told was going to be there. I think that we can tweak that a little bit and make it a little less safe and amp up the POVs of the individual characters a little bit and make them more dynamically opposed to each other so that it creates more conflict in the scene. I mean, if it's a drama, we have to not be afraid to take off our kid gloves and to take off our boxing gloves and bare knuckle this. Because that's what people want to watch. So Persephone. Can't be right. That can't be right. Isn't Layla... Keep it physical if you can. Persephone gestures wide belly.
Miss Cullen had a good addition of that line too in the chat window.
Okay, so yeah, it's an O. Dang it! Thank you. Measurements. The measure. Persephone. And now, feel free to get rid of everything I just wrote. Those measurements were a joke. Totally missed it. Don't I feel? You know, I don't know if that works or not. No. She didn't inform anyone her size changed. I think that we're looking for something else here, something a little bit stronger. I don't know if any of this may be, I may be going, when I think of Bridesmaids and I think of Fitting and I think of Fat Girl, I honestly, my brain immediately goes aesthetically to comedy.
Well, this particular scene is there can be a bit of comic relief in it. I mean, because you're right,
It's
you know,
innately
it can be
funny.
very joke filled. Yeah.
And it's also
Yeah.
bridesmaids and weddings are the settings of romantic comedies, not dramas usually.
True.
This is part of what this is part of what I mean about considering how you're editing things for tone. Everything about this scene, the characters, what's going on, the former fat girl, the way it's dramatized that she used to date or whatever, the groom. I mean, everything about it, about everything that you set this scene up as, screams romantic comedy to me. So it's just something to think about.
Okay.
Thinking about ways of, if this is dramatic, we can have some fun, and we, even in dramas, we need a little laugh once in a while. I mean, you don't want to change tone dramatically, but I think I'm realizing I'm making this a little more funny than I should, and that there would be a little bit more hurt and less. It's important that tone is hit dead on for any script, because they only know that they can sell it if you've given them something that reads like something that they sell. If it reads confused as to how they would sell it, that doesn't excite them. No executive is excited about how diversely they think they could advertise your idea. As much as you want to think that that's what they would want, is something that could reach people who like romantic comedies and dramas. The truth is that if you advertise for both, you get none. Because it looks like the movie doesn't know what it is, or the show doesn't know what it is. So you want to think about this stuff. And I don't know if there's anything to be done with this scene. You set it at a wedding. You've set this whole thing. The whole episode deals with this wedding, right?
It does not. No, sir.
Okay. Okay, good. All right. So it's just one little element.
Yeah.
Okay. So.
And this particular scene, I think, was more presented, and I think I could probably, like you said, be a little less safe, because I can make the comments to be more biting. It's more so to kind of show how insecure Layla is around her cousin, specifically because, she never got the fact that her cousin used to bully her and make fun of her a lot, and kind of make her life really miserable growing up.
Okay. All right. Well, then she would definitely know how to do it.
Yeah, like Miss Cullen, that's actually very good. I like that.
She's a great writer. She says, "Why, thank you." I say, "You're welcome." Serene, she neglected to mention her newfound belief. That is damn good, lady. I want to cut and paste it from the chat window. Copy. That's fabulous. Hey, Trisha, good night. She just posted good night. She has to go. We'll probably hang this up soon anyway. I don't think this forwards the action at all. You'll want to find some other way of inserting action that actually changes the scene.
Okay.
You know what can happen here? One of the bridesmaids can step between Layla. Persephone can step between them. Like she thinks there's going to be a brawl.
Okay.
Persephone steps between Layla. because that's really what she's doing. Because she's the one between them, and the drama is because Persephone there's been a layer of miscommunication, and Persephone was caught in the middle, literally.
Right.
So really, this is subtext on the surface. This is subtextual writing, is to let the physicality reflect what's going on under the surface and in the scene without having to say it. We're going to have to order... No, I liked it your way better. But I had to check. I was trying to cut it down to one line. Or you could just say, they have to order... Can't help myself, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine.
They have to order a whole new dress.
Shireen's line is actually unnecessary there, with the new change in the...
Right. Layla, the bridesmaids, begin to is one of the phrases we don't need. It's
Okay.
what begins to, starts to. Just do a search for the word begin and the word start throughout all scene actions to make sure you're not... Because anytime anybody does anything, they begin to do it or they start to do it. It's like cut to. Everybody begins to do every action they do. So it's redundant. Bridesmaids peek. If they peek, they're obviously going to use what?
Their heads.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Again, it's so funny once you look at it and you're like, oh yeah. But just so you know, I did all these same things too. So this is the learning curve. This is where the learning curve happens. Right? Peek, peek, peek. Instead of out of, why use two when you can use one?
Okay. From
their dressing. Are they? Never mind. I'm gonna just leave the rooms. I was just wondering if they were really rooms or they're stalls.
They're stalls. Well, I mean, it depends on the type of bridal shop. It's kind of a very rich bridal shop. So they actually are. They have like doors on them and you know.
Okay, so we'll leave rooms, but you know, I can't help it. I'm always looking for the specific answer, and if they have full doors, then they're dressing rooms, and you have the correct word. I'm just making sure. It was supposed to be a surprise. I didn't want to. What was supposed to be a surprise? Ordering her dress.
Ordering her dress for her. She actually is the antagonist and did it on purpose, even though she didn't know she's going to be smaller. But
less is more.
To play the victim.
You don't want begins to. She cries. Bridesmaids, some. Okay, again, this is funny. The fact that they're half dressed. Some. But if somebody's bridesmaids gather and comfort her.
Okay.
always in dialogue when you can. It sounds, unless the character is exceptionally stuffy or a robot, consider using contractions because they really do sound more natural when somebody's speaking. A lot of people won't say, "You are family," and I wanted to include you.
Yeah, that sounds awkward.
It does. So
Yeah.
contractions really help. Your family. I wanted to see go over and above. Hey. You see? It's
Now here's a question I have. That is actually a question that's very imperative too, because she doesn't want to be in the wedding because she is in love with the groom, and so is that, can we still infer? Oh,
absolutely,
okay, right. Yeah.
absolutely. You create a little back and forth. See? It's everything you wanted, only now there's even more emphasis on the why than there was before.
Gotcha. That's, yeah.
I really... There you go. Can't help it if one word hangs over. But there's always a good way to do it. And it's funny, and I love as a writer, I love the challenge of looking at a dangler and finding the place, because it only makes your script just a little tighter, the line a little bit better, a little bit more, you know. Now, where does Fat Layla come from when she appears in a scene?
She literally appears. And actually she had been there the whole time, but again, now that I know that you still have to like reestablish everybody in the room when you come back from an act break, I would have done that. So she was already in the room.
Okay, well, what might be funny is if Fat Layla steps from a dressing room and checks herself out in the mirror in the dress, in the tent of a dress. So her casualness is the antithesis of what's really happening.
Yes.
You see what I mean? What happens is, if you're going to use a character like Fat Layla to spur to in a situation, she's got to help feed the conflict. She needs to say something that it feels like it's stirring Layla to act egregiously. You see what I mean?
Yes.
So. Treason. I'm trying to figure out a way to.
Can Fat Layla interrupt Layla's like, no, you know, of course, like with Layla says, of course not, and then Fat Layla interrupts with, you know, give me a break.
Yeah.
No, they've actually never dated. It's an
Oh, okay. It's just a crush. It's a love. It's a. Give me a break. You see what I mean? Because,
yeah,
you know, I mean, it's too funny. It's too funny for what you're doing.
But I see how you're saying that it kind of, she is the antithesis, and I have a way in my head of how to be able to fix her, in as much as that, you know, Fat Layla a lot of times does and says what Layla would never say.
That's
because
right.
She's so insecure.
That's right. Believe it or not, the fat gives her a comfort of strength, a distance, you know, and she's also not there, so she can say whatever she wants. And
right.
There's a part of her that is fat is still very emotional about everything that makes her fat, about her whole being. She should be extremely sensitive, and Layla's trying to be a new person, and this person has to be the person she's trying to not be anymore.
Correct.
So it does work. And now you're backing out. It would be a question mark.
Okay.
Now there's Erica to the rescue again. Now you're ruining. I'm trying to think of a way to get this to 2 lines. It's math. This is word math. These are word problems. Yes, get rid of now. Thank you. See, this is why Erica Cullen got an A+. I have a perfect number of bridesmaids, and you're ruining. Serene cries as bridesmaid.
I remember this from the last one where you talked about if they're not going to actually say it, then you just use mutter. Don't say what they're muttering.
Yep. You can't have them say something they're not saying. The other bridesmaids, you don't want begins to mutter. I would even put here, I don't like mutter. I would say grumble. Bridesmaids grumble.
You can take Layla's stance, and you can take that out because we've changed their positions already.
Yeah. Well, the truth is nobody knows where they're standing. Leave it to the director anyway. Persephone, why use 3 when 1 will do? Just, you don't need group of. If it's women, guess what it is? It's a group of them. Okay. Shireen, you don't see this line, what this line does? What does that do?
It's very expository, I guess.
No. What's the worst thing you cannot have in a scene?
The worst thing I cannot have in the scene.
That's right.
If she's trying to calm.
That's
trying to
right.
the situation.
She's taking the tension out of the scene at the end of the scene. Don't do that, Shireen. I'll order I'll order a new dress tomorrow. And that was as far as I got with my pre-markings. Okay, we don't have much more to go. She looks at Layla. You don't need somebody looking at somebody.
Okay.
This is a compound sentence. My measuring tape, and I'll get you. Again, this isn't important.
Okay.
If you want her to exit, ladies, get Jess, Shireen. You know, that is way too expository. Yeah. And then you don't need this. But basically, instead of having 2 different lines, let her say it and use whatever it is you're going to say about... she's saying she'll fix it. Use that as the excuse to leave the room. You don't need to make a separate excuse on top of what she's already going to say.
Gotcha. Okay.
Everyone exits except you don't need the word for. Layla and Shireen.
Okay. Now this line right here is another question I have. I wanted to talk about how basically all of that drama that Shireen just presented, they were crocodile tears. And I wanted to kind of show that the tears immediately stopped, that it was all an act to make Layla look like she ruined everything, when in fact, Shireen was manipulating the situation on purpose.
Yes. Well, you don't want to say stops because that's negative. You don't want to describe a negative action. What is she doing?
Erica says she drops the melodrama.
Right. But what is she doing? Does that work?
Cheers makes it sound like she's happy. Is there something else we could use?
Let's another.
Somebody said dries up.
Dries.
I'm looking. I think that was the issue I was having with this one line, is I needed there to be one abrupt moment where you're like, oh, she's not only, faking, she's kind of a little mean and slightly nuts. And this is the first time that the audience actually realizes that Shireen is the antagonist of all of this. Like that.
Shireen fixes. What, is there another word for fixes?
Freshens.
We don't need it in the mirror. People will assume that. All right, fine.
And unabrupt. Abrupt.
Yes, it is. Okay, Shireen. I know what you're doing.
You can take that question out. No, you can take Layla's. You can take Layla's answer out. Like, what are you talking about? You can take that out.
I hate you so much. Do you like that?
Yeah, I actually had, in the very original one, I had her kind of like doing there you are. Like,
I think, of course, because there you are is on the nose.
okay.
And it's, you didn't put a period here. Got to do that. Do you think all she needs to say is, I don't want it?
That's perfect, actually, yes.
Better. that could be a great moment.
How did you do that?
What?
How did you do that?
How did I do that? It's magic.
Side by side.
Okay. Okay. You highlight the two dialogues you want side by side set at the same time. You hold down Command, and you hit D for dual dialogue, which means dialogue side by side. Or you would look under, down here.
Okay.
Under formatting. It's dual dialogue. Philly isn't your home. You are not going to.
Yeah. I
don't think you need this.
Okay.
I don't think you're not going to ruin this for me. Make it selfish entirely.
Yes.
It's about me. You're not going to ruin this for me, because F you. Not going to ruin. No. I'm sorry. Now I'm picturing the fat Amy from Pitch Perfect.
Oh yeah, it's a great movie. I love that movie.
It's fabulous. It's a fabulous film. Okay, Layla, Shireen. Oh, an interruption is a double hyphen always.
Okay. And you can take out the rest of that because now we've already established that she doesn't,
You do the whole line or just this sentence?
No, just that last, but everything isn't about you.
No. All right. Persephone enters. Shireen Debs begins to. Nope. That doesn't work.
Yeah, and they would assume it was with a tape measure because they're in a bridal shop.
Yeah, totally. Measures Layla.
Yeah, I saw that coming.
That is a great. It's a nice button for the end of the scene. You don't need more than that, right? I mean, anything on top of that is going to be a letdown, I think.
Okay.
The key to ending a scene great is to end at the high point, is to end at the peak of the conflict. So basically, Shireen is saying, oh, I get it. You're back. And so she's saying, it's on, without saying it's on.
Right.
I think that's it.
Thank you. That actually makes me feel a lot better.
Okay. You're going to want to change these to less funny. The character descriptions.
Definitely. Right.
I will email you these notes that I had. Do you have any questions about any of the changes I've made or anything that's sticking with you or anything like that that's bugging you?
No, I understand every change, and it actually makes it a lot easier throughout the rest of the script because once I establish Shireen's character in this, then it helps me kind of fit everything else in. And you actually helped me also with the fact that another note I had gotten from one of my other professors was that I needed to use Fat Layla more. And I was afraid to do that because I didn't want it to turn into like a Pitch Perfect / Bridesmaids kind of a thing.
Yes.
Even though this isn't about the wedding at all. But to see how now that she's the antithesis of what Layla is trying to be, then that makes it a lot easier to have her in more scenes and to have her show up more.
Absolutely, and it's great because she really is the great thing. What Fat Layla is going to allow you to do is, you know how in a book the writer can really tell you how somebody's feeling?
Yes.
Well, guess what? Fat Layla is your new narrator. She doesn't give narration, but she gives you actual mindset versus what comes out of her mouth in real life. So Fat Layla is really going to allow you to explore and show the intensity of the feelings while she tries to cover it up. And the difference between what Fat Layla says and what Layla says is going to show you is going to give you a dynamic contrast with and allow the audience to know that even when Layla underplays something and controls her emotions, you still have a way of letting them know how high the conflict is in the scene because you have Fat Layla there as kind of a way of kind of nudging the audience and the reader and giving them insight into what's going on inside Layla's head.
Gotcha.
It's a good use. I've actually used this device in a character. I had a character who was on the run from a killer, and she used to be a party girl, and I had the younger party girl teen version of her always playing exactly this kind of counter, because when something horrible is happening to Layla, Fat Layla can also be attacking Layla, calling her an idiot. You know,
Yeah.
so literally, just because Fat Layla is also Layla doesn't mean she's always on her side. It's important that you make sure that there's conflict between Fat Layla and Layla in every scene. That's what's going to make that relationship really dynamic, is the struggle between those two. They should never be on exactly the same wavelength, because she's fighting Fat Layla on everything.
Gotcha.
All right. Any other questions? Okay. If you don't have any more questions, I'm going to open it up to ask anybody else if they have any questions about the scene. You will have to unmute your microphones if your microphones are muted. It sounds like I've answered your questions. We've had a lovely 3-hour session. Somebody just spoke up. Who was it? Don't be afraid. I'm here until I've answered every question any and all of you have. Just don't ask me to read the dictionary, because I won't do it. Did somebody else have a question or a comment or anything?
Yes. All right. I'll ask it.
Please. That's what this is for.
Incredibly embarrassing. So
no. Don't be embarrassed.
I'm worried that I read over my script because I was reading the assignment, the one for Wednesday, where you submit your chosen scene and you describe everything about it with all the subtext and the meanings behind everything. And I read over my script and I was worried because I looked at it and I'm like, oh God, I almost have no subtext. And you always were talking about like, I just.
Subtext is really hard. Sorry. I'm just saying, I agree with you. Subtext is really, really hard. That's why there's a whole thing around looking for it, finding it, mining it. Should you be worried you don't have it? Look, worrying never does anybody any good. Instead of worrying about anything, think about ways to include it. Anytime, a great way for you to start adding and thinking about subtext is start going through your script, and instead of looking for subtext, look for times when characters say exactly what they're thinking and feeling. Look for things that are on the nose, and then go the opposite way. Give a juxtaposition, and find a way of saying it that provides the subtext saying what was on the nose, but without saying it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So just, if somebody says, I hate you, why did you cheat with my husband? You could say, was there a time when women could trust you around their men?
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just look. The important thing about subtext is getting off the nose. Is never being expository and never being saying exactly what a character is feeling and thinking. Because the minute you do that, you're dead in the water and there's no depth to the conversation.
Yeah.
So, look, if you pull out all the times your characters speak on the nose, you cannot help but insert subtext instead.
Okay.
So use that as your guide. Because sometimes it's hard for people to think subtext. Where's my subtext? Because sometimes your subtext is so sub that you can't see it. I'm being cute about it, but sometimes subtext is really between the lines, and the only way you create space between the lines for subtext is by taking things off the nose. So reverse engineer it if it helps, and look for anywhere you feel like you're saying exactly what's happening, and go another way with it.
Okay, thank you. Sorry,
Don't be sorry, dude. Subtext was so hard for me.
Embarrassing.
It's not embarrassing. None of you should be embarrassed about anything you're not doing correctly. When you turn in work, I will call you on everything everything that I see. It's sad as sometimes I'll see something, and then the next time you can turn it in and I see something totally different. So you just can't help what you see when you look at it. But I will look long and hard. I'll give you all the notes I can, all the feedback, mark everything I see. But you should never feel bad about making a mistake. You should never feel bad about not being a pro yet. You're still in the program. You're still in college. You're still learning the masters of it all. And even now I still learn. I learn stuff every day. You know, you never stop growing. You're partway through a journey. You know what? If I didn't sometimes know things that made you feel a little dumb and unknowledgeable, then I would have had no reason to be hired as a frickin' teacher here. So, I mean, I'm 15 years ahead of where you are. And I'm basically, look, you're not going to be where I am at the end of this class just because it takes longer and more practice to do it. But if I can save you 7 of those 15 years to get to where you need to be, then I will feel really good about the job I did. And I hope that you feel good about all the tricks you learn in this class. And again, never feel bad about what you don't know. Just learn. Learn from the mistakes, learn from the lessons, and move forward. There's regret, feeling bad about it, feeling not good enough. These are all natural states of mind for writers. We hate ourselves. I hate every word I write the first time it's written out, and it takes me a while to tweak everything into a shape where I actually like what I wrote. See, even
I'm glad.
You will hate your work, and then you're going to edit it. And you know what's going to really suck is that sometimes as you're editing, you feel like you're ripping all the fun stuff out because it really isn't needed, and then you feel like the work gets worse. Like sometimes a script gets worse before it gets better. And sometimes you have to strip out some of the stuff you like, but that isn't necessary, leaving you with a slightly more empty feeling in your script. But only then can you really build it back up into the movie it needs to be, so that all the stuff you put in after that fills out all those good places that you cut, but does it in a way that actually applies to the story, applies to the conflict, and applies to the character. And what you'll do is then you'll make it better. But it's good. It's totally normal to hate the first few drafts, and then to feel like you're rewriting it in circles and killing it. Yeah, I can hear you.
Hello?
Yeah. Hello?
I can hear you now.
I can hear you. Can you not hear me?
There was a bit there where I couldn't hear anybody, so.
Sorry about that. It's okay. I'm hopefully recording this on 2 different forms, so you should be able to watch it or listen to it later at some time to catch my ramblings, should you so choose. But don't feel bad. The short version of everything I said is everything you're feeling about hating your work is natural.
Okay.
So that just means that you have a good enough eye to know it's not ready yet. That's all. And that's half the battle. We all know that not knowing is half the battle. And the fact that you know is actually a really good sign, given where you are in the program, because this is where the program gets a little more difficult. We're editing, writing is rewriting. That's what we're doing here. And you're going to be doing that for the next third of the program. And if you're seeing it now and seeing problems and frustrated with your own work, all that means is that you're seeing it, and you have the next 3 months are about fixing that as best we can for now. But you'll grow once you graduate. You'll keep growing, and you'll keep changing, and you'll keep getting better. And some of the stuff won't occur to you, or you won't. I will have given you a bunch of these lessons, but suddenly they will make more sense to you after a certain amount of time doing it. Like, not everything is going to really, truly sink in probably at first. You'll get a lot of the surface stuff, hopefully, and then the other stuff, hopefully you keep my cheat sheet, and you'll be able to look at it a year from now. And
I'm going to save it to Word.
I have it framed on my wall, mounted on cork boards, and it decorates the walls of studios across the nation. No, but every one of the classes hopefully gave you something that you really can hold on to. If you got one great tool out of each class, then you are over 10 times ahead of where you were when you started this program. Do you have any other questions?
No, I think that's it right now. Thank you, though. You addressed literally every worry I had.
Well, I'm really glad.
Thank you.
And I'm always here. You guys have my email. My email never closes. Give me 24 hours to respond because the Outlook box has a quarantine system that goes through the university, and some emails don't get to me right away, but they do get to me within a few hours. And then I respond to them as soon as I see them. I get back to everybody within 24 hours of receiving an email. If I don't, unless it's Saturday, then you can email me again. And on the first email I sent to everybody, I gave every one of you my personal cell phone number. Yes, it's my cell phone number. It's not an office number. It's not a routing service. It's my cell phone number. Because I know what it's like to be in the middle of something and you need an answer to be able to continue. And so you can reach out to me. Just don't call me too late or too early. Do it within normal business hours. If it's midnight, wait till tomorrow. Or shoot me, but I may still check my email during business hours. So shoot the email, and if I don't answer in a decent time slot, then reach out. Look, I'm a teacher who actually really likes to teach. I don't have to do this. I like to do this. I want to make better writers. I want to help people. I believe that what we do as writers is hold up the mirror to mankind, and hopefully we get to explore the subconscious and the conscious of human evolution and inspire people to be better or reflect on how we've been worse so that we can constantly try to evolve. So it's a noble profession. It will rip our guts out constantly because that's what writers do. The cliche of us being nebbishy and self-doubting and being wallflowers, totally common. You will need to get over that social part of it if you are a wallflower, because this business is I was a wallflower. I was the fat redhead kid with braces and headgear with braces at school. So believe me, it wasn't pretty. So we just have to get over our anxieties, get over our inner fat Layla, and wait till our work is ready, and then when we do, pounce and be fearless. Make friends, make allies, swap scripts, and always be reading. Always be reading. Because if you hate reading, then what? Well, it's part of writing, obviously. It's kind of the yin to the yang. If you don't read a lot, you're not going to see what works and what doesn't. And you pick up. I learn more from reading than I probably do from writing, because you're seeing what works and what doesn't. And I can't tell you how many great writers screw up some very basic things, like the passive verbs. The script would read so much more engaging if they just wrote things in the active voice. The action should be an active voice. It's not rocket science, but some people are lazy or they just don't want to, and it's too much work. But if you want to break into this business, because it is such a competitive business, you need to be better than them. And you will be. You will be. Believe in yourself. All right.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Control save. W. I will send those out. I'm turning on the webcam for one more second. Does anybody else have any questions before we close up? Any last things? I want to make sure I answered every single question you all had. I want to do my job. All right. Well, thank you all for coming. It means a lot to me that you made time out of your busy lives to take some live time with me and work on the thing that we love to do. Have a wonderful night and sleep well. Dream a story. Keep a pen and paper by your bed. I know I do. So that those fun ideas that all of a sudden hit you in the middle of the night, whether it involves this script or one you'll wind up writing a year from now, doesn't matter. It's always good to be able to have something to write on, because you never know where you're going to come up with an idea. And may you have plenty of them. Good night, and thank you.